Hi guys. So it's the first ever morning mindfulness and I'm really excited. So I kind of think that we should start off first just talking about what even is mindfulness. Because I think, probably in recent years as more alternative stuff has come out that we've kind of heard this thing like mindfulness, living with intentionality. But what does that even mean, right? I know that when I first started all of my stuff with being more mindful and being more intentional in my life, probably about a year ago now, I just thought it sounded nice. And so that's what I did. I was like, yeah, I didn't even know what it is. And it turns out it's like a real thing, guys. So let's just start there. So it's just the practice of paying attention to the present moment. And we're going to pay attention to our bodily senses. We're going to pay attention to our awareness, our thoughts and feelings, where we are at in our emotional states. But we're going to do all of that through a non-judgmental and calm sort of lens. Okay? And we want to make sure that we just, whatever feelings are coming in that moment, we just kind of calmly acknowledge them. They're there and accept that they're there. They're there for a reason. And then it's our job from that point to figure out why is that. But the cool thing about mindfulness is that as we continue to practice it, our thoughts tune into kind of what we're sensing in the present rather than rehashing old thoughts or, our mind just kind of naturally resorts to kind of the negative self-talk that has become routine in our mind when we're feeling a certain kind of way, right? And that sounds probably like a really big concept, but it's not. And everybody experiences that on some level. So for example, a good example actually is one that, even I struggle with all the time. And I think lots of people do, right? So, you go in the morning and you're trying to put on your favorite top and you're realizing it's tighter than you want it to be, or your pants are tighter, it's not fitting the right way, or whatever it is. And you just immediately blurt out something mean and you say, man, I'm so fat, or, whatever it is, or you're working on homework and you're a high school student and you're feeling stuck on something and you immediately just go, man, I'm so stupid. I can't do this. I'm so stupid. Mindfulness is being aware of that and saying, instead of having that negative self-talk come through, it's acknowledging what that feeling is, right? And that feeling is frustration. Frustration because our pants don't fit. Frustration because we're struggling with our homework. It's not, right? The rhetoric doesn't have to be, we're fat or we're stupid. It can just be, man, I am so frustrated right now. And when we can acknowledge what that feeling really is, we can take care of ourselves better at that moment, right? So it takes a long time to get there, but it can actually help to kind of rewire how we think, instead of immediately going ahead and just saying like, oh, I'm so fat, or I'm so stupid, or whatever that mean self-talk is. We can kind of change that to just being like, I'm frustrated and need to take a break. But that being said, there is a ton of power in words. Just in what we speak out to the universe is huge. Not like, I know that might sound like a little bit of a lofty thing, but riddle me this one, okay? How often when you are late in the morning or you're just off to a rough start and you're trying to get to work and you just know you're going to be late or whatever it is, and you're like, this is going to be a bad day. Like, I already know. I say that all the time. Like, I no sooner get my feet out of bed and I'm like, yep, today's a bad day. It's just going to be a bad day. Guess what? On those days, they end up being bad days. So probably about a year ago, I changed my tune. And in I have a very short commute to work, probably a whole whopping 3 minutes. But in that 3 minutes, I make sure I turn off my radio and I say, okay, I'm going to have a good day today. It's going to be a good day today. And I find that I have really good days at work more often than not. And I have a very stressful job. And I mean, even furthermore, like, it doesn't even have to be spoken out loud. It can just be our thoughts. So at work, probably about a year ago, I was struggling. And I was struggling hard with just feeling overwhelmed with everything. And there's notes and there's a lot of moving components to my job. And I was just in a bad place with it. And so I had just started this whole mindfulness thing and like the power of positivity and thinking positive thoughts and how that impacts and shapes what actually happens, right? So I would leave sticky notes on my computer every single night before I left work so that in the morning, the first thing I would see is something encouraging. I'll have to look and see if I have any photos, but those of you who know me from work, remember there was a period of time where I didn't leave until I put my little sticky note on my computer. And it would say something. I mean, it didn't have to be anything huge. It could just be like, today's a good day for a good day. And I'm not kidding, like, I would have a good day. And I would just be able to move forward and say like, it's okay. And it's okay to be struggling too. And realize that when I was able to finally be like, I'm having a hard time, guys. Turns out I wasn't the only one. But once we're able to speak about it, it's easier to deal with it, right? So then that's kind of being mindful. Mindful starts with just having a general awareness in each moment what we're feeling or what's going on. And we'll get into the bigger part because, right, that's just internal mindfulness, right? When we're talking about knowing and acknowledging what that feeling is and letting it pass, accepting it, and then figuring out what it is. That's internal mindfulness. We can also get into mindfulness of others while we're being mindful of ourselves, right? So that's the scenario in the morning when you're saying, man, I'm so fat, and your 7-year-old daughter is hearing you. And then 2 weeks later, you realize that she's hit a growth spurt, right? Totally normal for a 7-year-old. And she's trying to get into her jeans. And she says, man, I'm so fat. And then you're like, probably shouldn't have done that. And, you know, your heart kind of sinks in that moment. You're like, man, what I say about myself really impacts other people too. Not only impacting them in what they think about me and what I'm saying and doing, but also kind of creating their own narrative for self-talk. So we're not doing that anymore. So one thing I want to do is just for the next week to practice one thing. Okay, so as a group, whoever is interested, and you don't have to, but if you're interested, what I would say is, let's start with just trying, right? So when you feel yourself getting frustrated and you're about to say something rude or mean about anybody or anything or yourself, stop for a second. Pause, close your eyes, and figure out why. Why am I saying this? Am I mad? Am I frustrated? Is it totally not even them? Is it just me? Try to just be aware. Just figure out what is that feeling, because there's always something going on. It's not that somebody just genuinely frustrated you so much that you have to tell them that you hate them, right? You don't have to go there. You can just say, man, just check in with yourself. What am I feeling? Why am I reacting this way? And then acknowledge it, right? Once we can acknowledge it, then we can figure out how to resolve it. So start with that. And bonus tip, if from now on you guys spend at least 2 minutes on your morning commutes to work or school or wherever you're going to just say out loud, today is going to be a good day. And that's all we're going to do for 1 week. So I'll be excited to see you guys come back next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, because we're going to continue this. And likewise, if you guys have anything you'd like to cover or a scenario that you'd like me to cover, I'd be happy to impart my thoughts on it and maybe give some suggestions for how to approach the situation in a more mindful or intentional way. So thank you guys so much for watching my video, and I will see you next week.